Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I'm said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest Xbox news for the week of July 18th, 2024, including the latest Xbox is here, kinda, and cheaper than ever. Details of a canceled Crash Bandicoot 5 have surfaced, video game sales are beginning to fall, and more. On this day in Xbox history, or this week in Xbox history, Halo's Spartan Assault was released for Windows Phone. Later for Xbox One, but at this point in time, it was just Windows Phone. Yes. Listen, we don't have to go down the whole memory lane thing. If you've been listening to the podcast for any number of years now, you know how I feel about Windows Phone. You know how I feel about Windows 8 and the Xbox One generation. So criminally misunderstood. It's just one of those things where I know the further and further we get away from this period in time, people will start to look back and go, we didn't know what we had back during the Xbox One, Windows 8, Steve Ballmer, Windows Phone era of Microsoft. It was just, listen, I'm not even saying this even remotely facetiously. Like, I mean this wholeheartedly. Like, I know people absolutely shit on Windows 8 and shit on Xbox One. Listen, were you there? Were you there at the beginning of it? Were you a Mac user or a reluctant Windows 7 user who wouldn't upgrade? Were you a PlayStation 4 player? Were you a Xbox 360 player that took way too long to upgrade and didn't come to the Xbox One generation until much later in the game? Were you an iPhone or Android user? Listen, if you weren't there, boots on the ground, I don't want your fucking take on why Windows 8 sucked or the consumer-focused era of Microsoft as a brand, a consumer brand was bad, or while Steve Ballmer wasn't the best CEO the company ever had. Fuck you, Bill Gates. I don't want to hear it. Halo 4 and 5, awesome. Your opinions about Halo 4 and 5 sucking? Stupid. Just like your face. Just like your bank account. That's right. We're going like hip-hop style. I'm making fun of you for the money I have, and you don't, because you're stupid, and I have Xbox One, and that means I am cooler than you. Fuck you. All right. Good old Xbox On, making sure to offend multiple groups of people all in 1 minute of an opening of a podcast. All right, that said, as for the game itself, Halo Spartan Assault, meh. I love Halo. I love twin stick shooters. This one was meh. Pretty meh game, but cool nonetheless. Hey, you can unlock achievements playing a Windows Phone game for your Xbox account. That was pretty cool in 2013, 11 years ago. Wow. Guys, Mike Clark writes in and says, Xbox On, simply the best Xbox podcast on the interwebs. HD Hobbs writes in and says, back of the box Bioshock 4 quote from Xbox On podcasts. Quote, creamiest crop of the crop cream. I'm sold. Well, if that isn't too astonishing comments, that will certainly tell you you're in the right place if you want the best and brightest Xbox podcast out there on the web. Then I don't know what is. Thank you, Mike Clark. Thank you, High Definition Hobbs. And welcome all to episode 268 of the Xbox On podcast. The next Xbox is already kinda here. We'll talk about that when we get to the main news segment. Until then, let's start off this week with our notable game releases because, wow, we're always saying how the summer has no game releases. People don't put out games in the summertime. This is the 1 week this summer where we're going to get games. So buckle up, bitches. We got a couple of games. And if you're a Game Pass subscriber, this is a good week for you. Starting off with the non-Game Pass related game, Darkest Dungeons 2 is now out for the Xbox Series S and X. So go ahead, purchase it. Use your hard-earned dollars to play that game if you so choose. But if you're a Game Pass subscriber, if you're a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, fuck you, Game Pass standard users. But joking aside, if you're a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, look forward to the following games that are hitting this week, day one releases. Flock for PC, Xbox One, and Series consoles. It is out now as of the time you listen to this podcast. This is that co-op little Zen bird game. I don't really know much about it because I had no interest in it. But it's a day one Game Pass game, and here it is. However, these next 3 games we have to talk about, pretty interesting. All day one Xbox Game Pass games. So again, as of the time you're already listening to this next game is already day one in Game Pass. Released, ready for you, waiting for you on your dashboard saying, baby, click me, play me. You don't even got to install me first. You can be a disrespectful motherfucker and just stream me right from the cloud. I don't give a shit if my father sees it. All right, Dungeons of Hinterberg. This is a game that was released, or not released. It was released this week. It was announced last year, and it's a third-person action RPG style game that is one of my favorite genres because it means absolutely fucking nothing. There are so many games that are third-person action RPGs that are nothing alike with other games of the similar genre. But yeah, this game is that, I don't know if you might remember the trailer. You play as that girl with the pink hair, and it's got very much that Hi-Fi Rush art style going for it. And it's like the girl, and she's in some like fucking Colorado looking place, and she's got the sword, and she's going around the mountains while she's on vacation at grandmother's house or whatever. But it looks fun. It looks really cool. She's going around. She's doing some action combat, some puzzle solving. It looks like a fun little 6-8 hour indie style action RPG game with some upgrades and leveling and customization stuff. So I don't know. This looks like a game. One of those Game Pass games. You're like, let me definitely give this a try. I don't know if this is going to be it for me, but this is definitely a game that I would otherwise have not played that I'm going to give a go just because it's in Game Pass. It looks pretty cool. I dig the art style. It looks like it's a really like fun game with a lot going on while also being like kind of chill thanks to its setting. No pun intended. So I don't know. I'm kind of interested in this one. Dungeons of Hinterberg out now. Day one Game Pass. Next up, another day one Game Pass game. However, this game comes out on Friday. So if you're listening to this podcast, the day goes live. It's not out until tomorrow. That is Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. Now, I know this game's a little more anticipated, highly anticipated. I know in the Xbox community, a lot of people have been talking about this game for some time, saying it looks quite good. This is another third-person action RPG. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because if you think that means this game's anything like Dungeons of Hinterberg, couldn't be further from the truth. This game looks nothing like that game. It's got that kind of whimsical, magical, fairy tale-like, ancient medieval Souls-like thing. I don't know, it looks like every Souls game you've ever fucking played, but apparently it's not a Souls game. It's got like melee combat and some magic combat as well. And the combat actually looks quite good, and the exploration looks really good, but then it starts showing like all the loot and equipment you can buy and upgrade and unlock and discover, and the meleeing, and I don't know about this game. I'm going to wait to see how people respond to it. Maybe stream it from the cloud a little bit and see what it's like. I'll be honest, just aesthetically, I just feel like so many games today look like this like hodgepodge of like gray, desert, sandy, medieval, ancient Asian shit, fucking swords, monsters, creatures, hack and slash, intense combat. I'm like, whether it's a Souls-like, or it's a hack and slash, or it's an RTS, or I don't give a shit what it is. It's just, I'm so sick and tired of seeing games that have this aesthetic or something adjacent to it that I'm willing to write off the entirety of this game based on its presentational value alone, which is, I know, terrible to say and do, but I can't feign excitement. This game does nothing for me, but I know a lot of people are really hyped about it, so I will be interested to see how it is received if people are into it. And actually, it looks like I'm wrong. This game actually comes out Thursday, as of the day where this podcast goes live. So if you're listening to this podcast on Thursday the 18th, then Flintlock is already available for you in Game Pass. However, this next and final day one Game Pass game that we have to talk about this week, this game comes out Friday, so you just hold your horses. If you're looking for this game, you gotta wait a minute, okay? You gotta wait upwards of 24 hours. But this is Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. This is that new Capcom third-person action game with some weird strategy, like, unit control combat. It's like some fucking like hack and slash Pikmin Ninja Gaiden style game. I don't even know what to compare this to. It looks like a very, very unique game, but it looks like it has very fun, frantic third-person action combat, not even remotely Souls-like related, which is so cool. And then you have these different units where it's kind of like strategy, like command your units kind of style, but also like tower defense a little bit with the way you use these units, but that's not the sole focus of the combat, because the majority of the combat is you attacking enemies. So it's like this hodgepodge of like tower defense RTS meets third person action, but it's got that like really cool mystical Japanese fucking pottery that has arms and tongues and ghouls and shit, kind of weird Japanese Shinto shit art style going on. And it looks awesome. I think this game looks like a ton of fun. It sounds very unique. That demo came out a couple weeks ago for it, and people are saying it's really awesome. So the early impressions of the game are quite good. When I'm finished with the game I'm currently playing, I have full intentions of heading straight into this game. This game's already preloaded on my Xbox Series S upstairs. I'm hopping right onto this motherfucker this weekend as soon as I'm done with the game I'm playing. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this game looks great. Of the bunch, for sure, this is the game I'm most looking forward to that Game Pass is getting right now. So lots of value while we're all sitting here bitching about, oh, Game Pass Ultimate is $20. Oh my God, what a fucking ripoff. It's like, I'm sorry, here's like $150 of brand new games for you or more. Like, what do you want, man? $20 a month. You get day one releases, a back catalog of great games. You get access to play games on the Xbox through its internet service. It's formerly called Xbox Live service. We can argue about whether or not they should be charging for that in the first place, but they do, and they always have, and that service is included in this $20. You also get PC Game Pass. You also get the ability to stream games to your phone or tablet or TV or whatever the fuck you want. So for all that for $20 a month, I'm not happy it's $20 a month. I remember when it was $15. I'm not saying, ooh, I'm so excited the prices went up. I praise my corporation lords, but like, it's pretty fucking good value still, if you ask me. And maybe they had that intentionally planned to announce that the week before this good Game Pass drop, just to kind of be like, this will soften the blow a little bit in the days to follow the bad news. I don't know, but it's worth mentioning. This is a pretty damn good week for Game Pass subscribers, especially Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. So I know we're not there yet. We have to wait until September when we begin that new Game Pass standard tier where you don't get day one Game Pass games, but I don't know, man. I just feel like there's a tier for everyone, and especially that highest tier, that ultimate tier, it's still a really good value proposition, in my opinion. But one more game coming out this week that we had to make mention of, and this is not a Game Pass game, but it is most definitely something worth noting because this is a video game franchise people have been yearning for and waiting for it to come back for over a decade. This is EA Sports College Football 25. Now, back in the day, we would have called that what? I don't know sports. I especially don't know college sports. What is that? NCAA, or is that basketball? Or is that football? I don't know. When it comes to college sports, I'm always confused as to why people like college sports even more than professional sports. It's not like a dig on people that feel that way. It's like I just genuinely don't understand it. So I grew up in Georgia. Everyone in Georgia is obsessed with the Georgia Bulldogs or Georgia Tech, and it's not a knock against those people or the fucking the people who like the Auburn or the Clemson or whatever. It's to each their own, whatever makes you happy. But I never, as such a passive, casual, fair weather, like fourth rate sports fan, it was always confusing to me where I'm like, why if we live in Atlanta, Georgia, why does everyone love the Georgia Bulldogs so much, but nobody gives a shit about the Atlanta Falcons? This makes no sense to me. But I know people have been clamoring for a college football game to come back ever since, I don't remember what it was called, but the previous EA college football game, that series that used to come out up until the early 2010s. I think the last entry came out in like 2011, 2012. It was around the time I was in high school, bussing tables at a steakhouse. I remember that being the story. I remember my coworkers talking about the series coming to an end back in those days. So that's the only reason I have any association of it. But I know this is a big deal. College sports fans have been yearning for this series to come back forever. And now from the creators of Madden NFL, you get EA Sports College Football. I mean, the same motherfuckers that renamed FIFA into EAFC Soccer Club Fuck You Edition 2027. No one batted an eye. So I'm sure the game will sell like crack despite its awful name. But this is very exciting. So coming out this Friday, Xbox Series S and X. Congrats to you, college sports fans. You waited long enough. I hope this game is I hope it's good. I hope it satiates you, and it satisfies that hole in your heart where college football video games used to be. So definitely a game worth mentioning. Although clearly, as you can tell, I have no concept of what I'm talking about. Let's go Bulldogs! All right, actually, I live in Florida now, so I should be what Gator. Let's go Gators! Let's go UCF! Dude, everyone here in Orlando loves UCF. It's so weird because UCF is like, it's like the biggest, and I mean this in the nicest way possible when I say this, it is the biggest degree mill of a college ever. And to show that I'm not ragging on people who go to this college, it is very much one-to-one with the college I went to in Atlanta. I went to Georgia State University, which is also absolutely textbook degree mill kind of college, which I have no problem with that. I think it's terrible that we have like this weird arbitrary kind of just like hierarchy of which colleges matter more than others. I understand there's some that are more accredited and historied, but whatever, who gives a shit? A degree is a degree, an education is an education. If you're going to go pursue an education, I think that's awesome regardless of where you decide to go. But it's always so weird to me because I went to college at Georgia State University, which is in downtown Atlanta. You would think that's like, oh yeah, I mean, that's our fucking school, Atlanta, Georgia, one of the basically the biggest city in the Southeast United States. Pretty big fucking deal. Georgia State, let's go Panthers. Was it? Yeah, Panthers is our mascot. That's how much fucking school spirit I had. I don't even remember my own mascot. But yeah, our football team sucked. Our sports team sucked. I remember the Atlanta Braves left Atlanta because fuck baseball, I guess. And when they did, my school, Georgia State, purchased Turner Field, which is the baseball field where the Atlanta Braves played forever, my whole life. One of the greatest ballparks of all time, honestly. Just such a fucking beautiful baseball field. And my school bought it out, trashed it, turned it into a fucking football field for their shitty ass team that no one gave a shit about. And after pumping all that money in marketing into doing that, still nobody gave a crap about my college's football team. So when I moved to Florida, I just always thought that was such a weird thing. Like everyone here is obsessed with UCF. Like everyone has the license plates and the hoodies and the hats. Like go UCF. I guess their college mascot is the Knights, like the Golden Knights, kind of like the Las Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL, but for football in Central Florida for college. And it's cool. Like it actually, it's always nice. Like I know a handful of people who went to that school, and one of my closest buddies is a graduate of that school, and you know he's very proud to have gone there. And I'm like, it always just blows my mind because I'm like, man, like you still got the license plate on your car. You still follow the football team and all that shit. Like they're so excited because they're playing. I think they're playing like an NFL team this year, like the Jaguars or something like that. I don't remember. But like people are so hyped on it, and I'm always just like, bro, I went to such like a similar rate, middle of the road degree mill college in Atlanta. No one gave a shit about our sports team. We were just a bunch of students clogging up the streets of downtown Atlanta while important people tried to get to and from work. I mean, like we were a shit school. Anyway, I don't really know what I'm talking about. It's an amusing thing I think about sometimes because like here in Florida, here in Orlando, there's so much pride for like the whatever you want to call it, the sports teams that are a step below, you know, the AA, the AAA kind of sports teams. We got like Orlando doesn't have an NHL team. We just have a minor league team, the Orlando Solar Bears, who are fucking awesome. They're actually great, and they play at the Kia Center. And like, dude, people in this city have so much passion and love for the Solar Bears. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. Like, what? Dude, where I come from, nobody gives a shit about the minor league hockey team. No one gives a shit about anything in Georgia unless it's college football, honestly. No one cares about NHL. No one cares about NBA. No one cares about NFL, MLB. Fuck the Braves, all of it. People, they just care about college football. That's it. I think this was an Xbox podcast at one point, but now I'm just not even venting. I'm just musing on, you know, recounting on my observations as a person who lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and noticed how little of a fuck anyone cared about anything other than college football. Wow. Shout out to college football. I love when kids don't get paid for their talents. All right, guys, let's move on from college sports and talk about Xbox. Perhaps we have an update this week. So a little something we got to touch on from last week. So that new Xbox Game Pass standard tier where you're not going to get day one Game Pass games. So, you know, this is that new tier that's coming out beginning in September, the one that's got people all up in arms. I'm so mad about this. Okay, whatever. Calm down, buddy. What is this one? $15 a month? Right, this is the one where it comes with Xbox Live and it comes with Game Pass, but you just don't get games day one. So Xbox didn't clarify this, and I was just kind of guessing that the way this was going to work is if you have this tier Game Pass, you probably get games 6 to 12 months after they come out. You know, I was guessing roughly 6 months. So, for example, You have the Xbox Game Pass standard tier. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle comes out. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscribers get that game day one on December, whatever day it comes out. And then if you are a Game Pass standard member, you probably get that game next June, next November, something like that, like 6 to 12 months down the road. Well, looks like I was pretty much spot on because popular Xbox, I don't even know what you call him. Popular Xbox, he's one of those guys, like he's like a brand. He's not like a journalist. He's not like a YouTuber. He's like a brand. He's just like a guy you follow online, and he goes on podcasts and has followers. Paris, apologies. He might have a YouTube channel. I actually don't know. he might. Anyway, I just know him because he's popular and he's on Kinda Funny a lot. So Paris on Twitter was tweeting out about it and was like, just kind of thinking out loud, like when will Game Pass standard subscribers get these day one Game Pass games? When they're 3 months old, when they're 6 months old, when they're 12. What is it? And Jez Corden of Windows Central chimed in and said, hey, I'm told it's a case-by-case basis between 6 and 12 months, sometimes longer. So it seems like nothing is official. Xbox hasn't come out and said a damn thing. But Jez Corden, who has a track record cleaner than my butthole after I use 5 baby wipes and eat Taco Bell, had this to say: 6 to 12 months, sometimes longer. So it seems like there's no hard, fast rule on it. But it is roughly what we were kind of assuming last week on the podcast, saying about maybe 6 to 12 months later. Oh, that would really suck if it's longer. Sometimes, you think about like the next Halo game comes out and you're a Game Pass standard subscriber. It's like, oh, maybe you wait 14, 15 months for that game to come to Game Pass. That sucks. But that's a way to entice you to spend $70 on a game while also staying subscribed to Game Pass, because Xbox is realizing they need to make some fucking money off this service or get people to do other things like, I don't know, buy games, because Xbox Game Pass does not make money for them. It is just a really big value proposition, try and get people to pay attention to the Xbox platform, despite what your favorite Twitter heads have said to you. All right, so with that update locked in, thank you, Paris. Thank you, Jez, for having that discussion publicly for us all to see, so I'm able to use that information for the podcast. Now, let's start our week off with the mildly amusing stories, updates, these appetizer-style stories. So, listen, man, the buffalo wings, the spinach and artichoke dip, it's hitting the table, baby. We know you want the buffalo burger. We know you want the steak medallion salad. Right now, we're munching on some appetizers, so hold your fucking horses. Let's start off with some Call of Duty Black Ops multiplayer beta information. So, from VGC, Activision's announced Call of Duty Black Ops 6 multiplayer beta dates. Early access for the beta will run from August 30th to September 4th on all platforms. It's important to note all platforms, because now that Xbox owns Call of Duty and Activision, they won't be participating in that shitty fucking thing that Activision and PlayStation used to do, where they would have the beta only for PlayStation players for a while before Xbox players were allowed to engage, because fuck you, that sucked. Continuing on, I don't know why they wrote all that, but continuing on, they said, this will be available to anybody who pre-orders Black Ops 6 or subscribes to select Game Pass plans. The weekend 2 of the beta will be available to all players, even those who don't pre-order the game. That is September 6th through 9th. The beta dates were announced on the first episode of the official Call of Duty podcast. Black Ops 6 will release on October 25th, and as a first-party Microsoft title, it will be the first Call of Duty game to release day one on Game Pass, on select plans, of course, that is. So, yeah, man, this is just exciting because, the little jab I gave there at Sony, this is just really exciting to have the first Call of Duty in a long time where there's going to be complete content parity and there's no favoritism with any platform. So, that first beta weekend, that's usually just for PlayStation people who pre-order the game, is now available to all. And then that second weekend is just available to all, even if you didn't pre-order. So I'm looking forward to having 2 weekends to play the Black Ops 6 beta instead of one like I normally get with every year's Call of Duty, because I play on Xbox. I'm tired of being punished for picking a different platform. That kind of sucks, but now that that's rectified, this is something we can look forward to. So, I mean, hey, it's happening. This is the biggest game of the year, and with rumors coming out that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is going to hit Game Pass in the coming weeks, this is kind of, rounding out. They're starting Season 5 right now, Modern Warfare 3. Don't know if there will be a Season 6 of Modern Warfare 3 because last time Sledgehammer made a Call of Duty game, it only got 5 seasons. That was Vanguard. So even though usually Call of Duty games get 6 seasons, this one might get shortened to 5, just like the last Call of Duty that Sledgehammer makes. Who knows? That actually may be confirmed already, but I don't know. So the important thing here to note is that you get Modern Warfare 3 in Game Pass in July, maybe early August, and then by the time you get to late August, early September, we're already focused on Black Ops 6 with the beta, and then that's getting pre-orders, and you're getting people on Game Pass because they're interested in hopping to Modern Warfare 3, then getting on this Black Ops 6 beta, and then before you know it, September ends, and we're in the month of October, and that's full steam ahead on Black Ops 6. Let's go ahead, baby. Pre-order, download, pre-download, prenatal marriage, whatever the fuck it is, just do it. Black Ops 6, let's go. And it looks like they got a little bit of a roadmap for what they're trying to do with this Call of Duty rollout as we get into Black Ops 6, introducing the franchise to Game Pass for the first time, introducing all players to this new era of Call of Duty and this new era of Microsoft owning Activision and the IP of Call of Duty. So it's just really exciting stuff. And I don't know, I'm hyped on it because, listen, Treyarch Call of Duty, better than the rest. Treyarch Call of Duty that had 4 full years of development, not like a year and a half abridged bullshit version or development timeline. That's just really exciting. So I have high expectations for this game, and I'm pretty hyped on it. So let's just be optimistic, excited, happy, and talk about some BioShock 4, because next up, VGC reports an early mid-development image of BioShock 4 has reportedly been shared online, showing early glimpses of 2K's sequel's UI design. The image, published by MP First, is said that to originally have come from a work reel belonging to 2K visual effect artists, which has been linked to protect the privacy. Notably, the image features the codename Parkside, which was referenced by journalist Colin Moriarty back in 2021, in which he revealed alleged details on a new BioShock game, including an Arctic setting. 2K first announced back in December 2019 that the work had begun on a new entry in the BioShock series, but it had been tight-lipped about the project in the years since. And so we were just talking about this last week, that they're starting to ramp up on staffing and full development on this game, which is funny, which kind of implies that the game was probably canceled or reworked or something at some point in development, because for the team to have been formed in 2019 and for the idea of them working on a new BioShock game to have been started in 2019, just for us to get this news in 2024 that like they're staffing up and they're getting ready to go into production, tells you that, you know, there are some bumps along the way that to get to where they are now. But looking at this leaked online screenshot or early work in progress screenshot, not too much to get off of this. I mean, it is an image of a first-person game. The person is looking up at a night sky that is cloudy. You can see some kind of environmental texture in the bottom corner of the screen, but I can't really make out what it is I'm looking at. This setting could quite honestly be anywhere in the world. You just can't make it out. It just looks like they're not underwater because, well, there's a night sky that they're looking at. So, you know, I guess that doesn't dispel or necessarily credit the idea that this game could be taking place in some Arctic setting, but okay. It looks like they're outside at night. Also in the center of the picture, there's this giant arch statue monument thing with a glowing orange fireball-like sphere. Looks kind of like a miniature sun that's just burning in the middle of the screen. And then you see the character, you know, it's first-person game, so you see the character holding a gun that looks like some giant rocket launcher type deal. And then you also see, it says Ricochet shotgun, and then it has 6 bullets loaded, ready to go. So there you go. And then, so I don't see any plasmas. I don't see any Big Daddy armor or anything like that. And then there's some UI stuff, like you see abilities, prompts for the left bumper and the right bumper, a health bar, and things like that. So there's not too much to get out of this, but it looks like it is a game that could be BioShock. Doesn't necessarily look BioShock-like. So I'm not getting anything out of this. We're not seeing too much that is, again, typical BioShock. I'm not seeing a Big Daddy with a drill for an arm. I'm not seeing freaking the swinging hook thing from BioShock Infinite. I'm not seeing, you know, any of the staples. I'm not seeing the Vita fucking whatever. Why am I always blanking on that? So I don't know. But if this is to be believed, it looks like there's enough going on with this game that they're working. They got art assets. They got some sandbox going. and hopefully we hear about this game in the next year or so. It's just good to know. I mean, the main reason I'm bringing all this up, it's just good to know that this game is at least far along enough in development that it seems like it's real, it's happening, and it's something that we might actually see one day, because until this and then last week's news, we've been kind of just assuming that maybe this game had been quietly canceled and wasn't actually coming out. So I don't know. It's exciting. All right, and in the spirit of summer news, it is a little bit lighter on the news, so there's not much to get into other than that. So before we get into our major news stories, we're going to get into the games I've been playing this week, talk a little bit about that. But before I can tell you about the games I've been playing, I first got to tell you about what it is I've been eating. And boy, oh boy, let me tell you guys a little bit about a conundrum problem. And this is a problem that is a tale as old as time. You may have heard of it, studied it even in an ancient mythology class. And it is known as, throughout time, it has been known as the Panera problem. The Panera problem is that of a fast casual chain restaurant that exists throughout the United States of America and possibly in other nations. I don't fucking know. But it is a fast casual chain restaurant that is quite good, known for serving sandwiches, soups, salads, and other quote-unquote healthy alternatives to fast food. So if you don't want the McDonald's cheeseburger, if you don't want the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, and you're looking to go a little lighter, maybe kind of place that has more of a cafe-like atmosphere, a little more Parisian twist to it, maybe it feels a little more elegant, a little California class or some European flair to it, this is the fast food restaurant for you. They have the drive-thru if you want it, but Panera's always been a restaurant that's so ideal for taking your MacBook and sitting there and doing some work. If you're a student, maybe doing some homework. If you're just a lonely person with no friends, maybe reading a book in the corner. If you're a person who has a job and works for a living, maybe you type out some emails or do some kind of business. Maybe you conduct some form of business while you're at the Panera Bread. All while doing it, you can get yourself a two for, what is it? What do they call it? A two for... a half and half, a pick two or something like that. You pick two. You get yourself like a turkey bravo, bacon ranch, whatever sandwich, and then you get a little super salad to go with that, and then they give you the apple or the baguette as a little side dish with it, and it's always a good time. I like Panera. Throughout time, I've always enjoyed Panera. I did go through a time for a while where I was a little sick of it, and I was Panera'd out, but I generally like Panera. It is, Panera is to fast food, sandwiches, and things like that what Starbucks is to chain coffee shops. At the end of the day, is Starbucks really any healthier or better for you than like Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme or any of these fucking coffee shops you find around town? No, it's full of sugar. It's kind of cheap, fast, whatever. And the coffee snobs would turn their noses up to the idea of having a Starbucks cup of coffee. But to the majority of us who aren't snobs and who just enjoy ambiance and a quick cup of coffee, we all like Starbucks. It's got a nice roasted coffee smell when you walk in, and the stores are always clean. They got that nice lighting. It's a really cozy place to read a book or do your homework. I've spent many a day at a Starbucks reading or doing homework throughout my high school and college experience. So, Panera Bread is basically the restaurant version of Starbucks in that regard. It's a great place. Read a book, do some work, have a meal. The problem with Panera Bread is despite the fact that their food is good, despite the fact that their ambiance is above average for a fast food restaurant, no doubt. You wouldn't catch me or pretty much anyone hanging out in a Burger King reading a book or doing the homework or typing out some work emails for the fun of it, enjoying the atmosphere, because that would be soul crushing. But despite all those pros, the issue with Panera Bread is it is so unreasonably expensive. It is offensively expensive. It is so cost prohibitive that I would say, here's the issue. You go to a restaurant like McDonald's and you get a cheeseburger from McDonald's. And I know a popular narrative in our inflation driven world is like, McDonald's and other fast food restaurants are getting expensive these days. It's like, here's the thing is at the end of the day, you eat Taco Bell, you eat McDonald's, you eat Chick-fil-A, they taste like that restaurant and nothing else. You feel like you're getting a meal, whether it's good or bad, whether it's high quality or low quality. You feel like you're getting a meal you can't get anywhere else. This is McDonald's, baby. But the problem with Panera Bread is you go to Panera Bread and you're eating like a barbecue chicken salad or a bacon turkey bravo sandwich or a bowl of mac and cheese or a veggie soup or whatever, or you're having like a glass of fresh squeezed lemonade, and you're thinking to yourself, this is really good, but I feel like there are other restaurants that sell things similar to this, but they're priced the same, but they're also table service. Like, I feel like I could go to California Pizza Kitchen, get seated by a host, have a server come up to me and give me full proper service, and get similar food that looks and tastes the same and is a similar price point as I could get at Panera Bread. What the fuck is up with that? I feel like Panera Bread has food items that I could attempt to make at home that would taste a lot closer or more generic in a way that Panera Bread is, in a way that a restaurant like McDonald's or Pizza Hut aren't. And so Panera has this problem now where it's like, it's a nice restaurant to hang out in. It's a nice restaurant to enjoy a cup of coffee, to read a book. It's a nice restaurant to have a work lunch, or to just spend a Saturday afternoon with your girlfriend or whatever. It's a nice restaurant to do that with. But holy fuck, the prices. All right, example time, and then we'll move on. I took a coworker to Panera Bread recently for like a work chat, right? We go out to the Panera Bread that's near our office. And I'm like, I know Panera's gotten expensive. So for the two of us, it's probably going to cost like $32 for Panera. No, it cost $42. We got one entree per person and one fountain drink per person. So you're telling me 2 entrees and 2 Cokes at a fucking Panera Bread cost $42 after tax? And yes, this is one of those fast casual restaurants that goes, and what about the tip? And they turn the screen around, they ask for the tip. Even though you go up there, you order at the counter, and then they ring the doggy bell and say, order number 247, Jesse. And then you go get your own fucking food. And they want you to tip on top of that? So these motherfuckers charge me $42 for 2 entrees and 2 fountain drinks. And that's the Panera problem. You got a great ambiance, a great restaurant. If Panera Bread were 25-30% cheaper than it is, that's where I would take every person I work with for a work lunch. It's the perfect restaurant. You can eat a little soup and salad. You don't feel super shitty and fat after you eat there. It's a great little atmosphere. It's a great place to chat. It's a great place to bring a laptop and get some work done. But when you charge me $21 a person to have a fucking soup and salad and a lemonade, we got a problem. I don't give a shit how much jasmine green tea, lemonade, kiwi arugula you fucking put in there. I don't care how bougie in California you made it. I don't care how much cilantro you put on the salad. That's bullshit for $21 a person? Oh my God. And then this past weekend, my girlfriend and I, because there's a new Panera Bread that's like 3 minutes down the road from our house. So we're going out to do some errands Sunday morning. We're going grocery shopping. We have to hit up Target and return something. And so we're like making the runs, right, on a Sunday morning. And I go, I'm feeling crazy. I've never had Panera Bread for breakfast. It's got to be cheaper for breakfast, right? You want to do some Panera? And she's like, not really. And I'm like, we're doing it anyway. And she's like, okay, you're driving. I can't stop you. And so we go to Panera, 2 lattes, 2 bagels. That's all we got. 2 plain bagels with cream cheese and 2 coffees, lattes. $19. What the fuck? Again, much better than $42, but $19 for 2 bagels and 2 coffees? I don't even think it costs that much at Starbucks. I think I could go to the Starbucks right across the street from Panera Bread and get 2 coffees and 2 bakery items. I don't know. Maybe it would be about $19, but I think it would be cheaper. I think it would be like $15 maybe. I could be wrong. I don't know, man. It's just, Panera Bread, you're rubbing me the wrong way. I want you to rub me. Don't get me wrong. I like you. I like your atmosphere. I like your food. But you're rubbing me the wrong way. And that is the Panera problem, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. All right, now on to what I've been playing. I'm playing Still Wakes the Deep. I know I said I was going to play Stalker next. Well, fuck that. I'm playing Still Wakes the Deep. This it's short. It's only like 4 hours maybe. So I thought I would be done with it by now, but I played 1 play session, and then I carved out time for a second play session and didn't get around to it. So I'm going to play it tomorrow when I get home from work. I'm planning on just blowing through the other 2 hours of this game and rolling credits, but this is great. So this is the latest game from developer The Chinese Room. They are a UK-based developer. These are the guys that did Everybody's Gone to the Rapture back on PS4. And I really like these guys. I appreciate this style of game, these kind of walking sim type games. This is their latest outing. It came out a few weeks ago. It was a day 1 Game Pass game, so it's available on Game Pass. And I really like it. I think this is a step up from Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. You can feel that this game has had more time in the oven. It is being made by a more matured team that has more skill under their belt and definitely more money to be able to do what they want to do. because unlike most walking sim type games, this game has a lot of NPCs, it has a lot of dialogue, so it feels a lot more cinematic. So yes, while it is a walking sim type game where you do mostly exploring, you walk slow, you kind of jog at a light pace, you open up doors, you explore rooms, you pick up objects, you interact with doors, you do light puzzle solving, basically just kind of walk your way through the narrative. It feels so much more cinematic because there are these other characters and there are these like not cutscenes, but there are these cinematic moments of action in the game where it's like it just feels like you're kind of playing a movie more than it is you're just playing through a game that has a low budget and is made by a team of 6 people who don't have the money or skill to be able to put together a proper AAA experience. So I really, really like this game. They're clearly going for more of a kind of horror, creepy thing with it. You play as this, I get, what are you, fucking Irish in this game? And you're on this oil rig. You're a bad boy who is basically avoiding doing his time in prison. So you go out to work on the oil rig and you leave your wife and family behind to go out and do this work. And what you can kind of stitch together is that things aren't great back at home and that you're kind of this piece of shit and you kind of feel bad about the piece of shit you are and the mistakes you made and stuff. So like people on the ship, you know, some people are kind of your friend, but everybody knows who you are and what you've done. And your boss is kind of an asshole to you. And he's like, oh, you're kind of like low-lying scum. Just get your fucking work done and get off my boat. And so you're just working out on this oil rig out in the middle of the ocean. And then this like supernatural event occurs. It seems like some kind of storm. But what you kind of slowly learn is it's some kind of amorphous thing, like blob type mysterious creature that's coming and attacking, and that's kind of where I am in the game. Like the events are unfolding. I won't get into it too much more than that, but you're trying to survive and find your way off this ship and to, you know, get off and save yourself and the crew that are with you. So it's really cool. I see a lot of people have likened it to horror films like The Thing from John Carpenter, a very, very famous seminal, you know, horror film that I have no experience with. I've never seen it. I just know it's highly regarded and people really like it. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people kind of liken it to like some kind of video game equivalent to that movie. But I don't know. I've never seen that movie. All I can say is I really dig this game. I dig the atmosphere. It's not like, oh, it's so creepy, I'm afraid to turn the corner, something might jump out at me. It's more like this whole experience sucks. It's so eerie. It's so scary and like precarious. It has much more of like a high stakes precarious kind of feel than it does like a creepy crawly, some boogeyman's gonna get you kind of thing. But you are running from this creature, and it does appear in weird places and kind of catch you off guard and spook you from time to time. And it's fun. Like the game visually looks good. The sound design is great. The voice acting is superb. To where you have to actually turn on the English subtitles to really understand everything that's being said, because it is very fucking Irish, and they say a lot of words that make no sense to people who speak American English. So it's cool. I like a lot. The writing's great. The voice acting's great. I'm really intrigued with where the story's going. You know, I always like these kinds of games, especially when they're more cinematic and narrative driven like this one is, more overtly so. So I'm really enjoying it. It's called Still Wakes the Deep. If you like games like Firewatch and Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and Gone Home and Tacoma and, you know, What Remains of Edith Finch, if you're into these kinds of, these more like high art style, like, you know, movie quality walking sim weekend experience games, this is among the higher tier of these games, and I highly recommend it. So really enjoying Still Wakes the Deep. I will wrap that up in the next day or two, and then I'm going to move on to Path of the Goddess, that new Capcom game. What is it again? How do you say it? Kunitsugami? I'll just call it Path of the Goddess, but damn, that game looks good. So shout out to Game Pass. Some good eating here. And with that said, that's it for what I've been eating. That's it for what I've been playing. That's it for the top of the show. Let's take a quick water break, come right back, and talk about the news. All right, so let's get into main news this week. Again, it is a little bit of a slower time of year. We're waiting for Tokyo Game Show and Gamescom and all these events. And then, of course, after that, the fall season will start kicking off, and we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the season with all the games coming out. But until then, it's those summer months. We just got to kind of deal with the the little bit here and there you get. So we only got a couple of stories here, 2 or 3, and they are on a smaller scale, but let's make the most of them, man. Xbox news is Xbox news. I'd rather be sitting here talking to you about what's going on in the world of Xbox than talking to you about why John Stamos still looks so darn handsome at the ripe age of 54. I don't know his age. Anyway, speaking of Amazon, VGC relays. Amazon has launched a new product bundle offering everything needed to play Xbox for a month, under $70. While it's been possible to play Xbox games via the cloud on PC, mobile devices, and select smart TVs and VR headsets for some time, support for these features were last week extended to some Amazon Fire Stick devices. As part of the Prime deals this week, going on with Prime Week and Prime Day, whatever the fuck they call it, Amazon is offering a Fire Stick 4K bundle with a white Xbox controller and a month of Game Pass for $68.90. So yes, normally this would cost, it says $110, but because of Prime Week and all that crap, you can currently get it for just under $70. Why is this notable? Well, to stream Xbox players will have to install... Sorry, let me finish this first. To stream Xbox games, players will have to install and launch the Xbox app on their Fire Stick device, sign in with the Microsoft account or sign up for Game Pass Ultimate if they haven't already, and connect the controller to play. You can use any kind of controller, though, even DualShock 4 or DualSense, to play Xbox games with your Fire device. So, why is this notable? Well, this is showing the bare minimum for what it takes to get in and have that traditional setup of sitting down on the couch, controller in hand, playing on Xbox. Mike Clark writes in and says, Amazon now selling a Fire Stick, Xbox controller, and GPU bundle. Hey, that new Xbox generation has begun. So I think this is notable, and Mike Clark, thank you for writing in, because while it has been possible to, just slap a Bluetooth controller to your iPhone and stream Gears of War 5 to your mobile device and for some time now, and all these other little alternatives for how you can engage with Xbox, there is something to be said about the mass marketability and the appeal of it's an app on your TV. It's a Fire Stick thing. Like, these are devices that like mom and dad and like old people and people who aren't necessarily gamers buy, and just kind of Trojan horsing Game Pass and Xbox as a platform onto TVs and Fire Sticks like this, and then selling it in a digestible, affordable way, being like, hey, for less than $100, we'll give you a stick, a month of a subscription service, and a controller so you can just start playing Xbox on your TV. This is important because this recaptures the experience of sitting on a couch in a living room in front of the main TV and playing a video game, just like it would be if you had a $400 or $500 home console plugged up to your TV and you were invested the more traditional way. And that's notable because even though there's always going to be streaming concerns, and depending on where you live in the world, maybe the streaming quality you get isn't as good as the streaming quality is somewhere like I get. I don't know. I live in like the outskirts of the greater Orlando area. And when I stream Xbox, it's pretty fantastic. There were times back in the day where it would be hit or miss. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad. But I got to say, for the past year or more, every time I stream Xbox at my house or at my apartment when I lived there last year and beyond, perfect. Like, absolutely perfect. I've been playing Gears of War on my Logitech G Cloud. Perfect. No issues whatsoever. Like, I have had zero issues playing the game due to input lag or fuzziness or poor quality or anything due to streaming. Like, whatever delay or lag or imperfection there has been imperceptible to someone like me who is an avid gamer, albeit not the most tech-savvy gamer, but an avid gamer nonetheless. So this is pretty important from that standpoint. It was one thing when Xbox said, hey, you can get into this next generation of gaming for only $300 with the Xbox Series X. It's another thing when they say, for less than $100 fucking dollars, we'll let you get in on the latest games. You want to play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? You want to play Avowed? You want to play Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the biggest game, no doubt, of 2024? Yeah, man, less than $100. Here's a controller. Here's a stick. Here's a month of Game Pass on us. Go wild. Or you can go even lower. Maybe you have a Samsung TV that already supports Xbox, the app, on your TV. Maybe you have a PlayStation 5 controller laying around because you have a PS5. And all you got to do in that case is sign up for Game Pass for $20 for 1 month, and boom, you're in. And so there's just something about this low barrier to entry. And now with Amazon and all this and marketing in a bundle where it's like, here's the stick and the controller in a month subscription all in one convenient package, it's getting there more and more where we're seeing this thing that, while isn't a replacement for the traditional gaming setup for more hardcore and invested gamers like us, is a tantalizing alternative for lapsed gamers, casual gamers, people looking for budget-friendly entertainment in an economy that is worsening each and every day. And this is something that you got to kind of pay attention to. It's great for Xbox in terms of broadening your reach. It's concerning for us as people hoping for yet another generation of hardcore, super, high-end home console graphics and capabilities with the next future boundary pushing Xbox, all that stuff. So this is kind of that tale of two Xboxes. Where's the future headed? This is why people are a little concerned about the future of the hardware and all that, because this is the kind of stuff, while it's not going to flip the script and replace the way we do game Xbox today, you might get pointed to in 5-10 years down the road and say, that was the beginning of the end. When Amazon put out a bundle for $70 that came with Game Pass, a controller, and a Fire Stick that played Xbox games for $70, that was the beginning of the end. And how we got to this future we know now. And that's assuming we get into this future in 5 to 10 years where no one's buying the hardware. The hardware doesn't matter anymore. It's about streaming. And I know people always like to push back on streaming, but it fucking matters. It's a thing, and it's gaining adoption, and it's gonna gain adoption in these other territories where gaming, home console gaming, isn't popular and it isn't commonplace, and it doesn't have historical roots in the society. I'm talking about places like Korea and China and India and parts of Africa and Taiwan and all these territories where people don't give a shit about PlayStation versus Xbox. They play PC and mobile. I'm gonna pull this question from the comment section at the end of the show, and we're going to read it now just because I think we can kind of tie it into this conversation and make some a little more out of it. Mike Clark writes in and says, Xbox hardware. After our discussion last week, I can't help but wonder, what has been the positive impact on Xbox's bottom line by having the most powerful home console this generation? I have a strong feeling that their future strategy involves dockable handhelds, along with third-party publishing, cloud gaming, and PC. They're not focused on physical media or having a presence at retail. That's a little exaggerated based on some stories. But anyway, so it would make sense for them to just skip that expense. As for Game Pass, it seems Microsoft often gains trust by making promises and creating a positive image, but then changing its stance, undermining the customer trust. This behavior is evident across all areas of Microsoft, including Xbox. And then as for Xbox failing to maintain customer trust and undermining them instead, their customers, the increasing price of Game Pass makes it less accessible, and the lack of stability in pricing raises doubts about the long-term value. It's puzzling how they expect to boost declining subscription by raising pricing. Once again, quarterly profits that take precedent over product success. Great show as always. Thank you for writing in. Now, I'm going to kind of ignore some of that later stuff of your comment to focus on the top part for the sake of this conversation. But just know, I think the Game Pass price raising, just as a side note, it's a necessary evil. It's Netflix did it. All these companies are doing it. They're all raising their prices. And guess what? It's helping them make more money. It's not hurting them. I know there's going to be a lot of internet belly aching over this, but at the end of the day, they need to raise the price of Game Pass. It's too good of a value. It's not sustainable, and the numbers aren't growing. So they need to raise the prices now before they get the biggest boon to this service they're ever going to get between Indiana Jones, Call of Duty, Avowed, and all these games coming out this fall. So it's do or die moment. When you have to fund and sustain a product like Call of Duty, you need to get revenue pulled in from somewhere. And if you're not selling all your games $70 a la carte on your platform like you are everywhere else, something's got to give. So I totally understand the price increase. I don't love it, but I understand it. So I'll leave it at that. But to your broader point about the hardware, this is the thing. It's hard to think that Xbox can justify the R&D and the strain that goes into creating the world's most powerful console ever made, like they did with the Xbox One X, like they did with the Xbox Series X, and like they're teasing they're doing with the next generation of Xbox, which we should expect to see in about a year. So the problem being, how do you keep justifying the expensive cost and the resource pull of investing in that kind of product, R&Ding that product, bringing it to market, and putting it out there just to know it's going to get dwarfed in sales by your competitor's platform with Nintendo and Sony. It's going to get trounced on in terms of user engagement and adoption compared to people just playing on the same games on Steam and getting better performance out of it because PC gaming. And how now your platform has the ability to reach a way wider audience through cloud streaming alternatives, which are cheaper, more worth your time, have higher market penetration, and are way more affordable and cost effective for you to continue to double down on, as opposed to finding new ways to push the boundaries with a high-end, top-of-the-line, performance-based home console that sells to a minority of gamers. And so I do wonder. I think for sure the next generation of Xbox is going to be 2 SKUs. And I think one of them is going to be a Switch-like device, and one of them is going to be an Xbox Series X replacement successor type device. So I still think we're going to get that high-performance, most powerful console ever made type deal. But that being said, I don't know that beyond that we get another one of those, because it kind of doesn't make sense as Xbox Series continues to sell worse than Xbox One did at this time in its lifespan, despite Xbox being a stronger brand and having more to offer and to say nowadays than they did back then. It's like how do you recover from that fight? Plus you have Call of Duty, plus you have Game Pass, plus you have cloud streaming, plus you have this smaller console that sells better. It's like maybe you should just focus your time and attention and resources on these other things that grow a little more naturally and aren't an uphill battle, and a little less on this Halo device that gets adopted by like 5 to 10 million hardcore users. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Xbox has some sort of obligation to serve this market, because at the end of the day, the same person who's willing to buy an Xbox One X or Series X is the person like you or I, the most hardcore Xbox fan, and you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, and you don't want to disservice that core audience, which I think a lot of Xbox fans are starting to feel a little swept under the rug. But at the same time, the decisions you make have to make business sense. And at some point in time, when you've made the crazy kind of decisions Xbox has made, flipping the script, introducing stuff like cloud streaming and Game Pass and all these new innovative alternative ideas for ways people can engage with gaming, you have to accept the fact that you might ruffle the feathers of your core base, and you might lose some people along the way. But you got to do that with the expectation, understanding, and hope and prayer that you're doing the right things to garner a new base and a larger base with this new base. It's a risk. It's not necessarily going to work out every time, but I think that's kind of where we're headed with Xbox, where if you're holding on to the glory days of the Xbox 360 era, Microsoft, they're slowly shifting away from that. The games are still going to be there, but they just might be available on PlayStation, and more people might be engaging on them through their Samsung TVs than on their home consoles. Maybe, I don't know. There's been a million times people have said the end of console gaming is near, and then that hasn't been the case. So maybe streaming doesn't take off adoption-wise the way they're hoping, or maybe there's just too much of a strong demand in more traditional markets like the US and in Europe and Australia for this kind of traditional hardware. I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I can't help but see how there's a disconnect between devices like the Xbox Series X, which is what we, the core audience, want, but it's flailing on the market, compared to new and innovative and cost-effective and mass marketable technologies like cloud streaming that are just so easy to get your foot in the door, so accessible, so affordable, that have just way more appeal to the 99% of people that don't give a shit about the world's most powerful console. So I think that all has to be said. I still believe fully that the next generation of Xbox is going to be very familiar in one sense as far as what we're used to Xbox doing with new hardware, and it's going to be very much fan servicey and what we're hoping for / expecting in terms of what they do with this handheld device. But beyond that, that is where, I don't know, the future for Xbox looks very different from what we're used to. And that's all I can say about that. All right, so let's leave it at that for now and move on to our second story, where we can talk about Crash Bandicoot 5, and fifth entry in the series that was reportedly canceled. So former Toys for Bob artist has claimed that the fifth game in the series was canceled at the studio. Concept artist Nicholas Cole made the claim on Twitter that in which he said that that a separate project that they'd been working on with another studio, Project Dragon, had been canceled. Responding to the fans' speculation that Project Dragon could be related to Spyro due to its codename, Cole said that it was not, but claimed that a version of Crash 5 had been canceled. Quote, "It's not Spyro, but someday folks out here will learn that Crash 5, learn of the Crash 5 that never was, and it's going to break hearts," they wrote. In another reply, Cole claimed that Project Dragon and Crash 5 were two totally separate canceled projects at two different studios. So maybe Project Dragon was like Spyro the Dragon 4, and Crash 5, they had a different team working on Spyro, and they had, of course, Toys for Bob working on Crash 5. Who knows? Crash Bandicoot developer Toys for Bob split from Activision this year following Microsoft's acquisition of the Call of Duty publisher. The studio later revealed that it has signed a publishing agreement with Microsoft for its next game. The last Crash Bandicoot game, It's All About Time, released in 2020 and was well received by critics. According to the LinkedIn profile of the developer, the game went on to sell more than 5 million copies. After Crash 4, Toys for Bob, which also developed the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, had partially transitioned into a support studio for Call of Duty, specifically Warzone mode. Online team-based platformer Crash Team Rumble launched last summer, but support was ended for the title by March of this year due to poor engagement/adoption. The thing that's so weird to me, it's just like the Tony Hawk story we learned about a couple months ago. 5 million units for Crash Bandicoot 4, a game that wasn't all that expensive to make and market, is pretty damn respectable. You'd think it would be something that's like, for a $40 game that takes 2 years to make from a small team, let's be happy. But when you're Activision and you make Call of Duty and you make Call of Duty money, and that's the kind of thing that your business thrives and depends on, Crash Bandicoot 4 is chump change. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake is chump change. And that's why it's so heartbreaking that, it's not that we can't live in a world where we get things like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. It's that a company like Activision does not deserve to be the one to look over and own that property because they clearly can't. They can't handle it. So this is heartbreaking. I wonder what it was. I wonder if they had a separate team working on a Spyro the Dragon game. I wish we could know. But we'll never know. Or if we do learn, it'll be far into the future. So just want to read that because it's incredibly sad, but also incredibly curious. Because a lot of rumors are suggesting that they might be doing a Crash Bandicoot game for Microsoft as part of this partnership they're doing, despite the fact that they're spinning off from Activision, going solo and going rogue. But I would wager that it seems like they're doing an original IP or something completely different from Crash and Spyro based on the nature of this news getting leaked out there and that they're working on some other things, although they kind of tease that, some stuff that suggested it might be Crash or Spyro, but I'm guessing it's not. And on the one hand, that's too bad, but on the other hand, Toys for Bob is such a talented team, and I'm just so grateful that they get to get away from Warzone and go work on their own project now, and hopefully, whatever they do should be pretty interesting and compelling. And, from the guys that made all those Crash and Spyro games and Skylanders, I just look forward to whatever they do next, because I think with their own creative freedom, oh man, they're going to do something way better than a remaster of Crash Bandicoot or a Spyro Toys to Life game. So I look forward to that. I'm excited about Toys for Bob. I'm sad that Crash Bandicoot 5 never happened, just from the perspective of, someone who doesn't really love Crash. I love Spyro a lot. I don't really love Crash all that much. I just want to see character platformers continue to thrive and exist because it's a genre I just love so dearly. And I hate that. Even though I love Call of Duty, I just hate that something like Call of Duty has just taken up so much of the oxygen and energy and time and money and just everything in the gaming sphere, and has rendered certain genres and types of games so undesirable and useless to publishers and owners, just based on this whole mentality of 5 million units sold isn't. Listen, if 5 million games sold isn't enough for a publisher, it means that development costs and expectations for game performance, all these things are wildly out of control. Because 5 million units of any game should be a roaring success. And if it's not, it means you have fucking budgetary issues and development issues that you can't get a highly profitable game out the door with and have it be a financial success with 5 million units sold. It's crazy. All right, our wrap-up story of the week. So this is just purely, not anecdotal, it's report information that you can assume transitions to other nations and other data in other parts of the world. But VGC, a UK-based video game outlet that I use predominantly for the news we go through in the show, ran the following story earlier this week. Said the UK video game software sales have fallen 29.4% for the first half of 2024. Physical game sales were down 40% year over year, 111.7 million euro, while digital downloads dropped 23%, according to figures released by Entertainment Retailers Association. Quote, "It was a tough first half of the year for games business with a lack of heavy-hitting releases, but we are optimistic for a strong second half, the traditional time for blockbuster releases," said ERA CEO Kim Bailey. Nevertheless, game sales during the first 6 months of the year were greater than the combined total of music and video sales. Music sales, which combined with vinyl, CD, and downloads, but excluded streaming, rose 7.9% year over year, 163.8 million euro. Video sales, which included physical electronics sell through and video on demand, but excludes streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime, rose 5.4% to 213.7 million euro. Quote, "This is a striking result for music, driven by notably by Taylor Swift and Record Store Day." Bailey said it was clear that back in April the impact they have on the vinyl sector, but they seem to have lifted the market as a whole too. Annual UK video game sales fell behind revenues last year for the first time since 2012, according to the ERA. So I think this is much to do about just the overall state of the economy more than anything. I think people are strapped for cash and stressed out, and generally while consumer entertainment thrives during tough economic times, I think right now people are being really distracted by things that aren't the traditional means of distraction. Yeah, in 2008 recession, Xbox, PlayStation, movie theaters, all these kinds of low, cheap entertainment soared and thrived because it was way cheaper to buy a $60 video game for your PS3 or go to the movie and see Transformers 7, in like 2008, 2009. That was way cheaper than going to a football game or going out to the restaurant and having a $200 meal or going to the bar and drinking, I don't know, what was a cocktail in 2008? $7.50 cocktails or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? It's just that, generally speaking, entertainment is pretty cheap. And when times are tough and people can't afford to go on vacations and do crazy fun things and go experience fun places and stuff, staying at home and playing a video game, all things considered, is pretty affordable entertainment by comparison. But this time we're not seeing that. And I wonder if a lot of it just has to do with the fact that, yeah, the economy is tough, so a lot of people are just cutting back on spending in general. But compared to last time the economy was tough, if you look back in like the recession of like the mid to late 2000s, it's that we're distracted by a lot of different things now. Now everybody has so many subscriptions, so many video streaming subscriptions, music, video game, just everything. We have so many fucking subscriptions. We subscribe to storage from Google, Apple, and Microsoft nowadays. Like, it's just, there's so much we're subscribed to. And I think people are starting to feel like when times get tough economically, the first thing to cut is your subscriptions, which affects your music and movies and video game intake. And then on top of all of that, I think people are just easily distracted by the one consumer electronic device that they have to own, not the one that they choose to own, like a PlayStation or an Xbox. So I think people are just happy to fucking sit in bed and rot like a fucking sack of potatoes, doom scrolling Twitter and TikTok all day long instead of, getting out there and playing a video game. It's crazy because, it's like, if you're like around my age, it's like we're used to growing up in a time where mom and dad are like, God dang it, dude, turn off the fucking Nintendo, get outside, get some exercise, get off your ass, go touch some grass, go see the sun, like, go do something, get out there and breathe some fresh air. But nowadays, it's like, I feel like if you're a parent today, it's like you want to tell your kid, like, dude, get off your fucking phone, stop watching Cocomelon and OnlyFans, and like, go touch some virtual grass, go play The Witcher 3 or something, for the love of fucking Christ. Do something other than just stare at your phone and scroll and scroll and scroll. And I just wonder if, like, I don't know, like, just people are just entertained and saving money and passing time by just watching YouTube, reading Reddit, scrolling TikTok. People are just okay with all the weird new forms of entertainment. People play Fortnite. Fortnite's such a social experience. Like, my girlfriend loves to play Fortnite with her sisters. She plays it with some of her friends. And it's like, these are all, like, the one thing that pretty much every one of these people have in common, that my girlfriend plays Fortnite. She probably plays Fortnite with a rotating cast of, I'd guess, 8 or 9 people, right? This rotating group of people she plays Fortnite with. And the crazy thing that, like, pretty much every one of these people have in common is that none of them are gamers. None of them are people that ran out to the store to buy the Xbox Series X, the world's most powerful console ever made. None of these people have RTX 3080s or whatever the fuck is popular to put inside your PC these days. All these people just have a PS4, Nintendo Switch, a PS5 laying around. Oh, my boyfriend bought this one, and oh, I have this one. Oh, I got the PS4 like forever ago to play this one game, and I have it still. Everyone is just playing the fucking game. And there's these live service games like Warzone and Fortnite and Apex Legends, and they're not really video games. They're not for like gamers. They're just like social platforms for people to fucking chill out and pass some time on. Like, a game like Fortnite almost has more in common with a platform like TikTok than a game like Fortnite has in common with Avowed. It's like the kind of guy who has to weigh, am I going to play 200 hours of Starfield, or am I going to play Fortnite tonight with my buddies so we can chat? I mean, more people are weighing the option of, am I going to just fucking doom scroll videos of people dancing in the garage with their moms on TikTok, or am I going to play Fortnite? Like, it's just, I think people are just distracted in different ways more than ever. It's interesting. I love the YouTuber Rick Beato. It's actually funny because the only video game podcast I listened to was actually also talking about this exact same video. But I love the YouTuber Rick Beato. He's this music producer and writer he's like 50 something years old. He works out of Atlanta, but he's this dude from New York who has a really storied career in the music industry, doing writing and recording and producing and touring. And he just has this really huge YouTube channel where he just has all these really, really interesting videos. He'll do interviews with famous musicians. He'll do interviews with up and coming musicians, but he'll also do like music theory stuff, just kind of talking about what's popular, what trends in music are popular, and like what music theory devices like kind of explain certain trends. And it's just really interesting music related YouTube content. But he did this video a couple weeks back that kind of blew up well outside his normal demographic of viewers, and was getting a lot of attention, just talking about like what's killing music. And he's just talking about how music's just too accessible. Not that it's a bad thing that more people than ever before have the opportunity and the ability to consume and create music. He's not saying that that's a bad thing, but just one of the natural consequences of a world where AI is creating music. You can subscribe to a service like Spotify for $10 a month and have access to all the music ever made forever and always. And, you know, every fucking guy with a microphone and an internet connection's a podcaster or a musician at this point in time. It's like, there's just so much competition for time and attention. There's no time to sit and breathe and appreciate anything. There's no time to become a deep fan of anything. Everyone is in their niche, just listening to more and more content, consuming more and more shit all the time. And sacrifices have to be made. It's like, there's just not enough time and attention for all the things always. And so this traditional method of just buying a $500 console, buying a $70 video game, playing the $70 video game, enjoying the $70 video game, moving on to the next $70 video game. It's becoming somewhat antiquated, along with a lot of experiences that we're more accustomed to. I mean, you think about it's like, why is attendance so low at the movie theater right now? It's like, I don't know, because every fucking time I turn on Netflix, there's like 7 more serial killer TV shows that all of my coworkers have found time to watch every episode of, and they talk about it every fucking day. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm still like 40 minutes into the Aquaman movie that came out like 8 months ago, trying to slowly work my way through that 2-hour movie. Meanwhile, you've seen every fucking serial killer drama on Netflix that's come out this week, let alone the 8,000 shows like that came out this past month. It's insane. There's just so much shit. And so I wonder, is a little bit of the economy, is a little bit of the competition of time and attention? It's a really good video he put out, because it's I've been thinking about it a lot since I watched that video too. It's like, it's so true. It's not that it's a bad thing that the kid down the street who grew up economically disadvantaged and didn't have, you know, the talent or the access or to the education, the instruments, and the ability to learn music theory and how to play the guitar and the piano and put together a record and professionally record. It's like, it's great that we live in a world where you don't have to have all those privileges and all access to all that stuff in order to express yourself creatively and put music out into this world. You don't have to be a hardcore traditional video game fan in order to have a great time engaging on an interactive medium with games like Fortnite. You don't have to be, you don't have to go out to the movie theaters and pay $18 a ticket to see the latest TV show everyone's talking about or latest video thing everyone's talking about, because Netflix has you covered with all the fucking serial killer videos that people won't stop fucking watching ad nauseum. And it's like this. I can go to the movie theater and watch Despicable Me 4 and think, wow, the world is flipping out about how good Despicable Me 4 is. But the truth of the matter is, these 5 people don't even know what Despicable Me is, because they're so distracted by their corner of the internet and all the shit they're inundated with that they didn't even know there was a Despicable Me 4. But if you go back in time to like when I was a kid, a movie of Despicable Me or Inside Out 2's stature, like new anime movies that have come out this summer, would be, I don't know, like if a new Spider-Man came out or a new Pirates of the Caribbean or a new Shrek movie came out. Everyone in the goddamn world would be aware of it, because it'd be like, wow, there's a new Spider-Man movie. Oh, there's a new Shrek movie. But today it's like, someone could be like, oh, they made There's a fourth Despicable Me. I didn't even know there was a second one. God damn, I'm just so busy subscribing to all these hairy men with feet pictures on OnlyFans. I'm just so busy watching rednecks do car repairs by pouring Coca-Cola where the oil goes on their fucking V8 engines. I'm so fucking busy reading furry fan fiction about Overwatch characters on Reddit. I didn't even know they were making another Aquaman movie. Good for you. You're 40 minutes through the movie after 8 months of watching it. It's just one of those things. The world is so splintered by having so much content, so much access, so much information, so many avenues and places for everyone to belong and have their own little specific silo and corner of like, these are the things I like, you know? None of it's bad. I'm not saying any of this is bad. It's just, I wonder if we're starting to see dips in like people engage with games. You know, we see this more and more where a lot of these big gaming executives are talking about, like Sony used to talk about this, like how it's like there's like 250 million people in the world who will buy video game consoles. And you're not going to sell more video game consoles by broadening the market. You're going to sell more video game consoles by eating your competition's lunch. So between Nintendo, Sony, and Xbox, you got to sell as many consoles as you can to this market of roughly 250 million people. And so when PlayStation's doing better, it means they're eating Xbox's lunch. When Nintendo's doing better, it means they're eating PlayStation, Xbox's lunch. It's like that kind of dynamic where like we're stuck in this old school mindset of like Halo 2, Xbox Live. Oh, I miss the old days. But it's like the rest of the world's moved past all this shit. And they're like, I'm just watching Baby Reindeer on Netflix and jerking off to a picture of Donald Trump getting shot in the earlobe because that's what we're doing in my silo of the internet. But some other guy's like, I'm listening to post-new wave revival funk music because fucking Spotify has more music than I know what to do with, and half of the shit's probably created by AI. Who knows? Maybe. And it's just like everyone is so hyper-fixated on something completely different. And so if we're trying to read the video game market in the traditional silo and we're wondering like where people are going and why things aren't growing and Xbox is so desperate, you know, this gets into a way bigger conversation. Because the truth of the matter is the main reason why gaming is down right now is probably because first half of this year has been kind of piss poor for first party releases. But there's more to it than that. And obviously there's a lot going on with the economy right now. And it is a little bit precarious. Sony hasn't had too many big games released anytime in recent history except for Helldivers. I mean, this year for them, it's really just been like Helldivers. And for Xbox, it's been like, what, Hellblade 2? That game that was like a fart in the wind? And now we're just waiting on Avowed and Indiana Jones and Black Ops 6 to kind of carry the weight of the rest of the year on their shoulders by hopefully performing well. And I'm sure they will, but it's just, you know, it's just weird. Things are just different now. And so I think we need to consider all these factors. It's like we can't expect the Xbox Series X and S generation to play out similarly to how the Xbox 360 PS3 generation played out, because the world has changed so much since then. And I'm not saying any of it's necessarily good or bad. It's just that there are so many external factors contributing to everything. And you can't always just look back on history and go, oh, well, this is happening, which is similar to this time this happened. So I suspect this will be the outcome based on historical evidence. Because historical evidence doesn't account for TikTok, Twitter, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Coco Melon. So it's like, it's just, who could predict any of this shit, you know? So anyway, a little erratic, that ramble, that conversation, but hopefully I was able to be coherent enough that you at least pick up the gist of what I'm trying to say and are able to think of this outside the context of just like video game sales down, every game sucks. It's like, yeah, because maybe the conversation is that. I don't know, maybe people are just saying, hey, like the games coming out right now are doggy poo-poo and I don't want to play these games. Maybe. There's a whole conversation to be said about how fucking copy-paste bandwagony so many of the games coming out right now are. Sure. But I think there's a bigger conversation to be had about just the competition for time and attention and the worsening economic conditions around the globe. But that, on that positive note, is going to do it for this week's news. Guys, let's wrap up real quick with the important enough news stories. These are stories important enough to make the podcast, not important enough to necessarily to warrant their own discussion, but here they are. We talk about them anyway, starting off with one that should warm your heart. Speaking of the Xbox 360 generation, speaking of the nostalgia and all of us Xbox fanboys, Microsoft has released, that is it. They've released themselves like the Kraken onto the boat of fishermen. No, Microsoft have released an Xbox 360 Blades themed dynamic background for Xbox consoles. The iconic Xbox 360 dashboard features the tabbed interface that enables users to navigate the console by switching between different blades. Launched in November 2005, this would go on to be replaced by the new Xbox experience years later in 2008, which Might be controversial to say that 2008 dashboard is my personal favorite Xbox 360 dashboard, just saying. All right, next up, information about a yet-to-be-announced Aliens Fireteam Elite 2 has seemingly appeared online. A document which appears to contain information of the unannounced game is circulating on social media. The game, codenamed Project Macondo, is scheduled to release in Q3 of 2025, according to the document. The game will serve as a sequel to Fireteam Elite and feature new modes such as Annihilation, which will be a game's spin on a Horde mode found in several other shooters. That sounds highly interesting to me. Next up, plans for a live-action series based on Ubisoft's Driver series have been shelved, according to the company. However, the company has claimed that it still plans to release related projects to the series despite no major release in over a decade. Ubisoft announced back in 2021 that they had partnered with upstart streaming service Binge for the series. However, the company told GameFile on Friday that they are now moving ahead with that company. They're not moving ahead with that company. Let's try English one more time, right? All right. And penultimately, Amazon's Fallout TV shows received 16 nominations for the 76th Emmy Award. They include nominations for Outstanding Drama Series, which pits the show against the Three Bloody Problems, Shogun, The Crowd, Slow Horses, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. See, there you go. There's 5 TV shows that only one of which I knew existed, because that's how much shit there is to consume. Walton Goggins is also nominated for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series for his portrayal of the Ghoul. Fallout is nominated for Writing, Visual Effects, and Production Design prizes too, among other awards. Congrats to Amazon and Bethesda. And finally, Robot Entertainment has announced the next game in the Orcs Must Die series. Orcs Must Die Death Trap is coming to Xbox Series S and X and PC via Steam and Epic Games in early 2025. These games generally find their way onto Game Pass. I played the third one a couple months ago for a few hours. Kind of fun. It's like junk food gaming, but fun. Little tower defense kind of 3D action game. Guys, that's it for all of our news this week. Now it's time to wrap up with the comments, the shout-outs. You know how it goes. YouTube.com, Xbox On Podcast. Click on the latest episode. Leave a comment. So help me God. If you don't refer to me as Daddy, I will not read your comment. Hasn't stopped me in the past. Only got 3 because we already pulled one of them earlier and talked about it in the show. And then also, I don't know, it's just, slow news week. Maybe I'm not engaging. I don't fucking know. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for writing in. We start out with one of the sweetest little motherfuckers who've ever written into this show before. And his name is Mr. Maug. And I love him every day because he's got a Nissan Z as his profile picture. And I wonder, is that your Nissan Z or is that a stock image? Please tell me, are you a fraud? Is this your vehicle? Can I get the VIN number for verification purposes? Thank you, Mr. Maug. On to your comment. You're right. You still get a lot for only $20 a month. I just don't know if I want to commit to that. On another note, and that's, of course, in reference to Game Pass prices going up. We've talked about that. But let's talk about this part here. On another note, I just beat the Black Ops 2 campaign. Unpopular opinion, I didn't like it that much. Or no, you said I didn't like it at all. I don't see why people keep saying Black Ops 2 is the best Call of Duty. Now, Mr. Maug, you didn't say first time, but I'm going to assume you're talking about for the first time you beat Black Ops 2. I want to let you know, Mr. Maug, and I'm not just saying this because you're a longtime listener, commenter, and because I like you and I have a secret crush on you that I don't want people in your life to know about because I don't know if you're married, engaged, dating, gay, straight, single. I just am saying this because I think you have a nice fucking ass and I like you, and so I'm gonna blow smoke up that ass right now. Get ready. It's happening. Mr. Maug, I love that you wrote in with this comment because your experience with Black Ops 2 exactly mirrors my experience with Black Ops 2. Yeah, so this is actually funny. I love comments like this because now I get to you're giving me free reign to rant and pontificate about the gaming days of yore in a. I don't know if the audience likes it, but I love doing it. So here we go. So big Call of Duty fan. I've always liked Treyarch more. You've heard me say that a million times on the podcast. Treyarch makes by far the best Call of Duties. Now, in my opinion, still to this day, the very best Call of Duty of all time is World at War, 2008's World at War, which if you have half a brain cell, you know that World at War is the first game in the Black Ops series because unlike Infinity Ward and their inability to keep their shit together, Treyarch always kept the same universe, the same storyline going, even though Black Ops 4 is a fucking mess and Black Ops 3's campaign sucks ass. But that aside, so So World at War is the first Black Ops game. It's my favorite. The campaign is so fun. The story is not that complex and interesting, but it is more about these moments of war in portraying these visceral, violent, historical moments and making them feel real and horrific and engaging in a way that no history class could ever make you feel. So, or no, no World War movie could ever make you feel by passively viewing it. And so I love World at War because I think it is the perfect Call of Duty game for encapsulating just the fucking violence and vitriol and just horrors of war. But aside from that, the real reason I love World at War is because the co-op multiplayer was fucking awesome with the paintball mode on, all the fun little gimmicks. The multiplayer was by far the most fun multiplayer Call of Duty ever was for me at least at that time. So good. Those maps are so iconic. I love it. The weapons were phenomenal. And then, of course, World at War is the game that birthed the best thing that ever happened in Call of Duty, which is the Nazi Zombies game mode. So I love World at War. I just putting that out there to be like, this was a very seminal game for me. Like when I think about the Xbox 360, there are 3 games that come to mind as like maybe 4, where these are like games where it's like I could play these 4 games any fucking day, and I was having the best day of my life. And those games are Halo 3, Left 4 Dead 1, Call of Duty World at War, and Guitar Hero 4 or 3. Basically, any one of those games, I'm having the greatest time of my life. Those games are like, let's put Sonic Unleashed in there. Those are my top 5. Sonic Unleashed. Make it 2008, put a controller in my hands and put on one of those video games. I'm having the best day ever. So needless to say, I have a lot of love for Treyarch and for Black Ops. When Black Ops 1 came out a few years later, loved it. Campaign, next level. The fucking vignette, action scene, movie, whatever crap. The story, the mind-bending twists and turns and all that. Cronky likes to make fun of me and always downplay, how cool the story is. Shut up. This is like, Black Ops 1 is like the coolest fucking action movie you've ever seen, executed perfectly in a video game. Black Ops 1's pretty fucking phenomenal from a campaign perspective. Multiplayer in Black Ops 1, pretty much just as good as World at War. I actually like World at War's multiplayer just a little bit more, but it's still pretty fucking great. And then the zombies in Black Ops 1, again, controversial take. I think World at War zombies were a little bit better, but Black Ops 1 had really great zombies maps. Then you get to Black Ops 2. For me, the series fell apart here. I'm with you, Mr. Maug. When Black Ops 2 came out, I picked it up. To be fair, this game 2012. This was kind of around my like, I'm too emo for video games. Like, sure, I'll buy the new Mario game. Sure, I'll buy the new Black Ops game. But like, I'm in a band. I'm in high school. I have a crush on a girl. I wrote a song about fucking cars and shit. I don't care. I was like too cool for school. So when I bought Black Ops 2 when it came out, the week it came out, I was pretty much just like, bleh, this game is so boring. I just don't care. Ugh, another Call of Duty. This is so lame. And I remember just always kind of going back and being like, why didn't I like Black Ops 2? Oh, it's just because I was just a hater. I was just a teenage piece of shit back then, maybe. But years and years later, I came back to Black Ops 2 and fell in love with it. So the first time I played Black Ops 2, I agree. Campaign is cringe as hell. Like the writing and the voice acting is so terrible in some parts. Like in the beginning when Alex Mason's kid is just like, he falls down the tree and he's like, I love you, Dad. I wish mom didn't die. She hates you or whatever he says. Like he's just so fucking cringe and the delivery's terrible and the character model looks like shit. It's aged poorly. And like there's so much about Black Ops 2 where I'm like, this story, whereas the first Black Ops was like cool and it was like fast paced and there's like always switching scenes, like crazy shit was always happening. It was possible to follow the story, whereas Black Ops 2 is like, what the fuck is even happening? Because we're jumping all the time. We're like in Vietnam, now we're in 2025, now we're in, it's like we're just constantly jumping back and forth between all these time periods, and it's just messy, it's crazy, and it's like, who's this Raul Menendez guy? Why am I playing as Alex Mason's kid? Why is Woods in a fucking why is Frank Woods in a wheelchair all of a sudden? I was confused by it. I thought it was a little over the top for no reason. I didn't like the future tech stuff. But all the years later, after Call of Duty went way beyond reasonable, the sense of reasonableness with the future tech and shit, with like Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 3 and all these fucking games, I came back to Black Ops 2 with like more of a seasoned veteran gruff kind of attitude. And I came back and said, what about my youth on the Xbox 360? What has become of it? Let me go back and relive what once was. And I went back and played Black Ops 2, and I fell in love with it. I was like, shit, this game's so awesome. Why did it? And I was always confused because for the longest time, everyone always said Black Ops 2 is the best zombies. Black Ops 2 is the best multiplayer. Black Ops 2 is the best campaign. It's the best Call of Duty all around. Now that I've gone back and played Black Ops 2 a lot over the years, and I've had a lot of time to like replay through the series and like kind of compare them, I have very different feelings. I still think overall World at War is the best Black Ops game. I still think Black Ops 1 has a better campaign than Black Ops 2, but I think Black Ops 2 feels way better refined in all the areas that count from a gameplay perspective. I think the multiplayer in Black Ops 2 is definitely better than Black Ops 1. In fact, I would say Black Ops 2 is probably the best multiplayer in Call of Duty history. It feels perfect. Like, Call of Duty never felt better to play than Black Ops 2's multiplayer. And then the zombies, I still kind of don't like the zombies in Black Ops 2. I think some of the DLC is pretty good, but for the most part, I think Black Ops 2 is kind of a sore spot for zombies in the series. But that being said, zombies still good, still a lot better than some of these other games that came out after this era. Multiplayer, pretty much perfection. But that campaign, I learned to love it over time. It's one of those things like, unfortunately, it's like if Black Ops 1 is like a 10 out of 10 from like an action movie standpoint, Black Ops 2 is like a 7 out of 10, but it's like a really good 7 out of 10, if that makes sense. It's kind of like if you're looking at Pixar movies, it's like Toy Story is a 10 out of 10. It's a great movie. Everyone will love Toy Story. Cars is like a 7 out of 10 movie, but that 7 out of 10 is better than the 10 out of 10 that Toy Story is, because even though Cars has more flaws and it's a little rough around the edges, the moments that hit hard hit way harder. This is like, once you get into it, once you get it, oh, it's good shit, man. Once you understand the world of animated anthropomorphic vehicles, there's no going back, man. So that's kind of how I feel about Black Ops 2. It's like once you like, Raul Menendez is a menacing, terrifying, badass villain, and Frank Woods is still a badass even as an old man in a wheelchair. And some of the missions in that game are super fucking fun and badass. Some of the decision making is really cool, and the way the game actually respects that and plays out based on the choices you make, really cool. The guns and equipment and gameplay feel phenomenal. So I don't know. I've come around and really learned to love Black Ops 2, especially because after that, I mean, dude, it just got so much worse. I mean, Modern Warfare 3 sucked. Ghosts is the only Call of Duty I've never played, so I can't speak to it, but I know everyone hates it. Advanced Warfare sucked. Black Ops 3 sucks. I know people love Black Ops 3. You guys are fucking smoking crack. Aside from zombies, Black Ops 3 sucks. You know, like, Infinite Warfare sucked. World War 2 sucked. Black Ops 4 was better than Black Ops 3, but still not as good as Black Ops 1 and 2. Like, it just, after so many years of shit Call of Duty, you go back. And it's that Thanos meme. It's like, perhaps I treated you harshly. You know, it's like, but Black Ops 2, man, I don't know. I'm curious to see, maybe it grows on you. Maybe one day you go back and play it again and you like it, but to each their own, man. I really didn't like Black Ops 2 when it came out. But then again, back in those days, back in 2012, man, I was such a fucking little jaded teenage punk ass. The only thing that happened in video games in 2012 that I gave a shit about was the launch of the Wii U and Halo 4. Other than that, I didn't care about anything that happened in video games that year. But put some respect on Black Ops 2's name. It's a good game. That took way longer than it needed to, but that's what happens when you let me indulge. All right, next up, Cronky says, as someone who doesn't play Call of Duty, the idea of Game Pass getting more expensive because Call of Duty's on the service is really annoying. As a side note, what the fuck's going on with Activision backwards compatibility? Still nothing from Raven or High Moon or whatever. I want singularity, dang it. Yeah, you and everyone else. I know. That's fine. The price of Game Pass is not going up solely because of Call of Duty. The price of Game Pass needs to go up regardless of whether or not they have Activision. But yeah, just because you don't like Call of Duty or play Call of Duty, even though you do play Call of Duty, maybe against your will, but you do play it. Listen, man, I don't like that Universal became a more expensive and more popular theme park just because they put my least favorite fictional character of all time into the park. Universal opened Islands of Adventure in 1999. It's one of my favorite theme parks from a theming and nostalgia standpoint. I think it is such a stunning and fun theme park, and I love it. And then in 2010, Universal came over to my house in Alpharetta, Georgia, beat down my door, tied my, how old was I in 2010? my 15-year-old self down to the bedpost, not in a sexual way, and slapped me violently for 37 and a half minutes and said, "How'd you like it if we replaced the Lost Continent with Harry Potter?" "Yeah, you hate Harry Potter, you fucking idiot, don't you?" And they kept slapping me, and they knew it was fucking dirty, and they did it anyway. And they left me with nothing but scars and butterbeer to prove that they meant business. I don't know, man. Sometimes the thing you love gets molested by something you hate. That's a terrible thing to say. Getting molested sucks whether you hate the thing that did it or not. But the point being, sometimes bad things happen to good things, you know? Sometimes Islands of Adventure gets a little sad because they shoved Harry Potter in it and made it a worse place. Sometimes Game Pass gets your least favorite game shoved onto it and it warrants the price going up. It is our job as consumers to say, hey, this product exists so that everyone gets a little bit of something. And obviously, there is a financial imperative to put a game like Call of Duty on Game Pass if you have the ability to do so, because that will draw crazy crowds to your service and drive subscriber counts way up in theory. So it would behoove you not to do that thing, just like it would have behooved Universal to pass up on the opportunity to put something as insanely popular and beloved as Harry Potter in their beautiful Islands of Adventure theme park, ostensibly ruining the park because now we have lost Merlinwood and gained a bunch of fucking British kids with scars on their heads and wooden sticks both in their pants and in their hands. This is terrifying. This is heartbreaking. This is disheartening, to say the very least. But this is reality, and it is our job, Cronky, to take the good with the bad and make the most of every situation. You don't like Call of Duty on Game Pass? Can I interest you in Avowed? Fuck off. Thank you for writing in. Tim R. writes in, who, if you don't know who that is, that's Tim Robertson. Thank you for being here. And says, I now understand why you were so dismissive of my complaints earlier about Halo Infinite not following through with their promise of couch co-op. Online co-op is a great option, much like chicken at a steakhouse. Side note, I prefer New York strip because I have crap taste. I know a lot of this is a reference to shit I said, but you're saying you genuinely prefer the New York strip over the ribeye? Listen, New York strip is a fine choice. I'm not going to criticize anyone for liking the New York strip. It's a great cut of steak. That being said, the ribeye is better. That being said, I'm not going to... Listen, if I say my favorite Xbox game is Halo and you say your favorite's Gears of War, I'm not gonna rag on you. Of course, Halo's better than Gears of War, but Gears of War is great too. But if you come into my fucking house and tell me that Crackdown 3 is the best Xbox game ever made, that's like saying the fucking steak salad medallion, dry ass motherfucking sirloin piece of shit you get at a Chili's, Denny's, Applebee's, Outback Steakhouse is the best cut of steak. Then we got a problem. But Tim R., with all due respect, chicken belongs in a steakhouse. The New York strip's a fine cut of steak. And I was dismissive of Halo Infinite not getting that couch co-op because no one gives a shit. With all due respect. They have the data to prove no one gives a shit. I'm sorry. If there was enough data suggesting that a massive number of people desperately wanted to play couch co-op with campaign, they would make it happen. But the reason why they failed us all on that promise twice now, with Halo 5 and Infinite, is because a minuscule number of people actually use the feature, and the amount of work and labor it takes to make it happen is not justifiable. That being said, I don't know what the fuck happened with Halo Infinite where they actually got the feature into the game and then never activated it. That's silly. I'm with you, man. That's silly. Now, you have a part 2 of your comment, and this is our final comment of the week. You said, on the topic of the Xbox outage, I was really surprised to find that I couldn't even watch YouTube without logging in, which, of course, I couldn't do. I have to assume it's a setting I can change or something, but it just feels like being locked in a dead Tesla. It's funny you say that. I was just thinking about canceling my YouTube premium subscription just because we live in a world where everything's getting more expensive. Cut back where you can. Everyone's first instinct is like, how can I cut out money? It's like, stop eating Uber Eats and stop paying for Netflix, I guess, maybe. You know, that gives me $30 a month, I guess. So it's funny you said that, but yeah, I mean, I guess what you're talking about is something a little more dramatic, where being logged out of your YouTube, I mean, the algorithm doesn't even know what to feed you, so you're probably just watching Martha Stewart videos. I mean, that's pretty fucking hardcore, Tim R. Are you gonna stuff a pheasant and cook a meal for all of us here at Xbox On? What is this? What are you watching? What are you doing, Tim R? God damn it! Thank you for writing in. Well, I don't know what we've been talking about for the past 30 minutes, but it certainly is an Xbox. You guys, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for writing in. Thank you all for existing, being sexy, being kind, and being here. Until next week, stay healthy, stay safe, spend time with those you love, eat delicious food, don't support Panera Bread's terrible pricing practices, but most importantly, power your dreams.